So recently I did a video talking about how to find chords in a contrapuntal texture. It's more difficult because the chords are not laid out like this for you in a chorale style. And they're not like a piano, thing. We have a boom chuck or something. It's more difficult to see what's going on. Partly because you're looking at one or two part, or sometimes 3 and 4 part if you're looking at symphonias and fugues textures. And there's lots of jumping around to non-chord tones when you see a scale and things. And we just spent the first part of invention number 4 getting from the original key to the first sort of departure key. And I'll link the other video, but in very brief, Bach, in this case, will he'll give you an idea at the beginning. And that's this right here. This is his statement of, it's not really a theme. It's a little more than a motive too, but it's his gesture or his idea. This, right? And then he'll do it again right there. And that's a 4-measure statement where he does it twice. And the chords are also going to be very basic usually. This is a 1 chord. I'm in D minor, right? And this is my 5 chord right here. And then this will be a 1 chord again. And this will be a 5 chord here as well. Sometimes they can have 7ths on the 5 chords. And by doing this, you can find that that's not a chord tone, that's not a chord tone. And importantly, that's not a chord tone right there, because that can get confusing to people when they go like, wait, is this the chord or is the edges the chord? And then here, if we understand that he's doing this, invert the top note of the line and put it down below. It's a game that he does to make compound lines. Then, you can also find that this is not a chord tone. This is an escape tone, and this is an appoggiatura right there. That's just very useful to help us to decode all the other gestures, because Bach will use his head motive idea as a repetition, and then as the device for which he grows everything else. He will drive a sequence out of it right here. He'll use little pieces of it here to make other things to go against it. And I think one of the big problems that we find, especially after we get out of the first section of these kind of pieces, is that because the head motive idea is used to construct so many other functional things in the piece, it's tough to know where sections begin and end. And I mean, it's meant to do that. It's supposed to drive forward. It's harder visually to see where different cadences and things are. It's part of the charm of the piece though. So anyhow, I'll link to the other video. Basically it's head motive with the repeat, and then starts it again and does a sequence here, and then eventually changes key from the key of D minor to the key of, in this case, F major. And we are in fact in F major earlier than right here. It happens right in this area, but you don't mark it really until you get a nice strong cadence right there. And you can hear this. This sounds like a standard sort of 1-6-4, 5-1 cadence right here. So, and you hear this right. And that tells us that that's the end of the section right there, and we're starting a new section. Okay. Beginnings are a little easier because we know that we're headed from the tonic key through a sequence until we get a cadence, and then we're in the dominant or sometimes the relative major if we start in the minor. That's really useful to do, to say what key am I in, what's the relative major and minor, and then where are my closely related keys. +1 sharp, making it A minor and C major, and +1 flat, G minor and B flat major. These are the areas that in the other parts we're going to go to, Bach is likely to visit. And we find that he's gone from D minor to F major, and we're going to find he's going to go to A minor and G minor before swinging back. That's, what we'll find here. So in this video, sorry for the really long preamble, but we're going to try and tackle the rest of this. I think this is daunting for, it's more difficult analysis, but daunting for students because, like I said, he uses the same material as this head motive again and again to generate other things. So it's hard to know where one section begins and one section ends. But you can see we have this nice cadence right here. That's important, and I'm going to show you that it happens in a few other places before we get anywhere. Here's another one right here, right? That's a nice cadence where, oh, we've come out of here and let's see. Looking at my, yeah, no, there. So we hear this, and here, right there. And so we know that this is an A minor, because this is my 1, 6, 4, and 5 chord right there. This is my E and my C right there. And I know that A is kind of missing, but it's only 2-part texture, and you can hear it, right? This is my predominant, and then my 1, 6, 4, 5, which is all dominant. And so that's like my 5 chord right there. There's that, okay? And then you can see another one towards the end right here as well. Bach is so economical in his use. When he has a device that he likes for this piece, he'll do it again. And so we see this happen right here again, just at the very end. So you can hear this. It's, let's see, where is it? Right there. So it's like, right, and then, right. And what we're hearing here is, again, a 1, 6, 4 because of the ornament, and then a 5. And this is a 6 chord. It's a deceptive cadence right there. But that's because we're already back in the key of D minor, right? This is my D minor 1, 6, 4 chord right there. And this is my A chord right there. This is a nice anticipation that he uses again. And this is a B flat chord right here, which is 6. And it's just a surprise at the end. We actually are back in the key of D minor at this point right here. So first up, like I said, we can find repetitions of idioms that give us strong cadences. And then you can listen to other places where there's arrivals or maybe restarts of the main theme that feel like the beginning of something. Just like we get to hear, this has both of them right there. We go, right. So that sounds like a nice cadence right there, but then it immediately starts up with right, and then right. So this sounds like the beginning. I know that there's reiterations of this figure in all places, but it's the beginning of something stable, and it's, you can hear that it's a 1 and a 5 chord again. That happens in a couple places. That happens here, and I think what you're going to find is that happens right here as well, and we'll play into that so you can hear that, and maybe we'll analyze to that point and then talk about that there. This is where the motive comes back again in the original key, right? It's like up here, up the octave, and so this is also, we're in D minor again. This is our return right here. So if we start to portion off sections, we had our opening statement and then transition to the tonic, or sorry, the dominant or the relative major. In this case, it's the relative major. Then we have this section. You can see it starts with a tremolo on a pedal tone on like the dominant note. And then we have our next section right here. And then we have another section right here. And then we have a return to the home key. So those are different places that we need to look at. You can also see that the scale is altered in these new sections, which sort of designates change of key, at least temporarily, or moving to a new key. So although we start in the key of F right here, you can see that as we get down towards the, I'm sure it's on, yeah, here, that we get an F sharp, right? And that's like a 5 of something, right? Of the G, which is going to the C, right? And then should be going back to the F. So we can analyze this in the key of F, but we start to see like secondary dominance, and then we have a B natural here, which is killing the key of F. So we're headed somewhere else differently, okay? Let's just start right here. We've learned from this that the top note here and this top note are usually not part of the chords, and we also know that the chord progression is 1 and 5 and 1 and 5, and you can make this a 6-5 if you like and a 6-5 if you like because of inversions, but I'm not sure that that's that important, but D minor chord and then A7 chords. So we're going to see like F chord, again, not a chord tone, not a chord tone, not a chord tone, F, A, C. This is my F chord. It's going to be a 1 chord right there, right? And then this is also probably not part of the chord. Same idea as the opening, and this is a C, E, and a G, and there's my C. If you want, you can include that as the 7th of the 5 chord. So this is like a C7 chord, and we can put this as a 5, 6, 5, and that's not a surprise because that's been happening in the opening, and it's a restatement in a new key, okay? But what he's going to do, instead of just repeating it in the other hand like he did at the top now, he's going to start to run this as a sequence or build itself up. And so we hear this, right? And now he's not going to start up again. He's going to pivot, and this is still a 1 chord. So he's transforming this and making this a sequence because 5 likes to go to 1, right? Okay. So there's my F and my A and my C right there. F and A and C. And I know that we said that often this is not part of the chord, but in this case, he's transforming it and using it as he wants to. He's growing from, you know, F to E, then A to G, right? And then down here, A to F sharp. So he'll invert these things, but the chord progression underneath is so basic and strong that he can do these kind of things and change up the pattern because you're hearing the implied chord progression underneath. So 1, right? So 5 chord again, I think, yes? Not part of the chord. So that would be a C and an E and a G, right? Okay. This is a C chord again. That's my 5, and you can make it be a 4-3 if you want because there's my 7th, and this is the 5th of the chord right there, if you'd like. Okay, and so 1, 5, 1, 5, which is exactly like 1, 5, 1, 5, different key, and 5 is going to go to 1. So we would expect this to be a 1 chord here, and this is where he kind of gets a little tricky with us. It is the 1 chord. Like, you can hear this. If I just play the chords underneath and go like, and then I go to here, right? Again for here, right? And then I play the C chord, right? You still want it to go here. I know that there's no F at that moment, but it's implied. You can hear 5-1, 5-1. The harmonic structure is fast, right? And so this is an F chord, and it's going to be like a 1-6. But if you're complaining, saying, but it looks like an A minor chord, well, it is too. This becomes an A minor chord right here. And here's where we're going to start changing things up, okay? So it's an implied F chord. The F is never stated till later here, and then it's almost like a passing note because we have A, C, E, and G, right? If you want the 7th on there. And this is the beginning of a new sequence to take us somewhere else, right? So it's not really a 3. It's more like the F chord got converted into an A minor chord, and that's going to be going down a 5th. This is a D7 chord here, right? D, F sharp, A, C, F sharp's in the bass, and this is pointing us to a G chord right there, G minor in this case, right? 7th, if you want to include that there. This is from the melodic minor going into G minor, right? So we're pivoting sort of like 2 of 2, right? Or 5 going down a 5th, and then this has been converted to become a 5 of that. And G will go down a 5th to C, and that's what we have here. We have a C and an E and a G and an E and a B flat, so C7 there, right? And we can still analyze this in the key of F if we want to. This would be 1. We can just sort of ignore that. This will be 5, 6, 5 of 2, right? Because G is 2. And here's my 2. We can throw a 7th on it if you want. 2 likes to go to 5, and this is a 5, 6, 5, and that's going to go to 1, which is F. And sure enough, we have our F right there, right? That's our F chord right there. But destabilizing using the 5 of this and sort of intimating, you know, A minor is a sequence going to G minor, which is a sequence like you know, 5-1 or 5-1 or 2-5-2-5-1 kind of thing. And then we have this right here. It's destabilizing a little bit in our ears. And so when we get to here and then we hear the B natural, that B natural tells us in our ear we're shifting to a new section. We're changing keys. So I'm just going to kind of go through this real quickly so you can hear, like when I get to there. And I'm not going to play this annoying thing up top. It's just, you know, it's fine in performance, but I don't want to torture you with that. But right, and then we're like, here's my 5, and then here's my 1 in first inversion, right? And here's my 5 in second inversion, and then here's my 1 chord, right? But then it kind of feels like an A minor chord because it shifts to my D7. And there's my sequence, right? And that's G minor to C. And then here we are in our 1 chord. But immediately the B natural says, aha, not really, right? And just like this was the 2 going to there, this becomes like a B, D, F chord, right? If you want to count the A, you can. This is like a B diminished chord right here. B, D, F, 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 and the D, right? And that B diminished is 2 of what's coming up next. So remember, we're headed to the key of A minor coming up here, right? And so if you think about it, this F now gets transformed into this B diminished, which is like a 2 diminished 6 in A minor, which is the next place we're headed to, okay? And so you can see that the next chord right here, we're over the page now, is E, G sharp, and B. That's my 5 chord. And we can put this for that inversion right there in the key of A minor. And we have this as well. That's a non-chord tone. There's my E, B, G sharp. There's my 7th right there. And then this here will be my A minor chord. Yes, A minor chord right there, because 5 wants to go to 1, right? A and C, these are alternating passing 5 chord things, but in the end it's all just going to be a 1 chord. And then the thing about it is a 1 chord there, but then as we get towards the end here, it's starting to feel a little bit more like it's 5s as well, like 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5. When we get to here, okay, well, we are on a E, G sharp, and a G sharp, and an E and a D. This is my 5 again, right there. And the pedal tone has been put down below this time. It's another audible marker that we're in a new section, just like we had the pedal tone right there to begin with, right? But the actual arrival doesn't happen here. If you listen to this transition, these 4 measures where we have this once and then a sort of turnaround here, right, gives us a transition into a beginning statement again right there. Again, transforming different, but the same. So I'm going to go from here, right? We hear the 5 chord, right? Like, and then there's my 1 chord right there, but immediately the B natural says, no, I don't think so. And then we get our 5 chord right here. And here's our little transitional thing. It doesn't, right? And then, right? And then here's where we hear an actual statement of a, right? It's not the same as the beginning because it doesn't start on the root, and we've slidden into it, but this is where the beginning of this confirmed section is. This is the way it often happens. We change keys in the middle of the previous section, and then we arrive, and then we either jump onto another key or we stay in that key for a while and do statements, okay? Here's another, it's not a sequence, but it's an interesting thing, and I'm not a Bach historian. I mean, we've taken classes and taught history and read some books and things like that, but I'm not as deep dived into Bach or other people, you know, as other people are. But I think this is probably true. I've seen people talk about how he's, you know, deeply a man of faith, and it permeated his music as well. And if you go through the whole piece, this happens in some of the other inventions as well. We get to this climax point of the piece right here, right? It's this great thing where it goes. It's from here, right? And then again, and then, right? And it's not an accident that there's one statement, and then it grows into another statement, and then it grows into another statement, and that's 3 statements. And he loved to embed notions of the Trinity and things in there. And you'll only find 3 statements of this in one other place, and that's at the very beginning in the same hand, where we go right here. Like this is my intro, my theme, right up here, okay? But then after he's done that, he starts up again. He goes 1 time through here, right? And then that's 1, and then 2, right? 3. And then he bails out, right? Any other time, you're never going to find 3 reiterations of the main motive in the same hand. And it's saved here, happens a lot in the inventions where you'll get 3. In this case, it's even ascending like this, up to the pinnacle of the heights right there. And I think in addition just to being a fantastic composer, he had these ideas of aesthetics that he wanted to put in as well. So yeah, so this is all going to be in the key of A minor, right? This is going to be my A minor chord, right? Like A, right? E and C, and I'm on a pedal. It's the 5 chord, so that's my 1 chord right there, right? I'm not going to mess with figured bass where you have a pedal in the bass. That's not part of the chord. And here's my E and my G sharp and my B and my D. That's my 5/7 chord right there. And this is the same as the other ones. It's inverted, so it's not the same exact sound, but you know, he's doing the same sort of thing, the basic chords. Here I'm back to my 5 wants to go to 1, right? A, C, E, right? The E in the pedal. So this is my 1 chord. It's another A minor chord. And then we should expect, again, not part of the chord. We're going to go back to E, right? And B and D. And you could say, well, what about this F sharp? I think in this case it's flipped around, and this is my chord tone, and this is my non-chord tone at that point. So I have an E and a B and a D and an E. No G sharp, but it's okay. It's my 5 chord right there, okay? And that should go to a 1 chord. And I think, you know, you'll find that this is A, C, E, and my E, my D. It's tough to know because like these are going to get flipped around a bit, but you know, I think that works. Or you could look at this as an extension of the 5 chord right here, right? Right. So there's bits of both. Like here, you can hear this making my 5 chord and this making my 1 chord, and you know, it alternates between these two. Here, this makes my 5 chord right there. So my 5/7 right there, and then that would arrive, and you can also hear the alternating 1 chord in there as well. But that's going to arrive here, and I'm going to have my A, C, C, E non-chord tone. So this is my 1 chord right there. Okay, and then I don't know. We have an interesting sort of turnaround right here. You can call this a D minor if you want. You can call this an E chord if you want. This F and A could just be more of the D minor right there, right? So it's like little 1, 5, 1. As we drive towards this cadence here, these things compact and get closer. This is my predominant, right? So it looks like a D chord again. Could be, right? D chord, right? Could be, and it's incomplete, so it's tough to know. But then we have our 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. So this is my like step into. This is Fa So. Right, so it feels like, you know, could be, oh, in the key of A, sorry. So this is my, yeah, I'm sorry, I've got my key wrong here. This would be a 4, 5, right? And then this could be thought of as an F chord, so that could even be a 6 chord if you wanted it to, going to a D chord, which would be my 4 chord. The truth is, with incomplete information here, it's sort of, it fits into an idiom that you hear it and you don't need to hear all the, like have all the notes there to confirm this sort of like, let's slide through here on the cadence and then get predominant and a 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. Okay, that's my A minor section. Oh, we're getting on here, 24 minutes, 25 minutes. We can finish this within a half hour. It'll be fine. As soon as we're done here, you see that the scale changes, right? We have our cadence and we rhyme there, and the scale changes to now include B flats and E flats and an F sharp. That puts us in the key of G minor, because G minor has two flats, B flat and E flat. You can hear this as it, and the chord progression will start to work as well. And the F sharp is my leading tone from the harmonic minor, right? So as soon as we get to here on the A, it immediately, I mean, it's still an A chord, right? You land there, you can hear this, right, where it goes, you know, right here where it goes. Right? Good. But then, right, it's like, well, that sounds like, right, it's scale changed, and now it's not an A minor, but it's an A diminished chord because of the E flat. And that would be my 2 chord in the key of G minor, right? This is my D7 chord right here, not part of the key, so it's D7. So that'll be my 5, which is 6-5. 5 likes to go to 1. Here's my G, G, B flat, D. This is G minor, right? It's my 1. And then he's got to get us back to the key of D minor for the end. So this is a transitional little section here. It's beautiful and it's brilliant, but immediately it goes like 1 becomes 2, diminished, goes down by 5 to the 5, right? And then that goes down to the 1. And now the 1 has to transform away, and this is going to go immediately to a C chord. And notice that this is E natural right there again. Okay, so we're getting out of the G minor business right away. We skip into this. And so now this is no longer the key of G minor. This is my 2 chord in the key of F, right? And then this is my 5 chord in the key of F. Or if you want to think of it differently, you could think of it as that's my 4 chord in the key of D minor, and this is my 7 subtonic 7 chord in the key of D minor, right? And then we land here on an F chord, right? F, A, F, F, all this kind of stuff. And that could be my 1 chord in the key of F, like he's arching backwards. Or if you want to, you can think of it in the key of D minor, and that's my 3 chord. It's sort of a dual thing going on, but he's rewinding us back. However, if you think you're an F, it's not, I mean, it does sound like this when you hear the G chord, right? When you're like the D7 from right here, and you're, I'm gonna figure where I'm on the piano here. Yeah, right there, right? And then here's my G, right? And then you hear this, oh, it's definitely the dominant of F, right? And there's my F, right? But then the B natural and the C sharp, right here, right? Right, so, and that says melodic minor in the key of D minor, right? So immediately, like you hear this part definitely is a 2-5 to hear, but then as soon as we hear this, you go like, I'm in the key of D minor, right? Feels that way. And then this is not a chord tone, and this is a C sharp and an E and an A and a G. This is my 5-7 chord right here, right? 4-3 if you care about the inversions. This is my A7 chord right there. And that's my 5 chord to bring us back to our end statement, right? And then you can hear it's the harmonically, it's gone back to the key of D minor, and also just arrives with the beginning of this new statement. So from here, you know, you get to your beautiful that, and then you go like, wait a second, that's a different key because of the scale, right? And then we're home. Right? And we get a nice little turnaround here, which is kind of fun. To get us out of this, and so he does this cute thing. Now remember again that this could be like my 1 chord right there, and this could be a 5 of 5, and then this is my 5 chord right there because this is a G major chord because of the melodic minor, and this is like an inverted 1 chord right there. So this is my approach in, or you could just look at the whole thing and say it's a G7 chord. Either way, I like to hear it like that. If we look at what this is right here though, well, first off, this is my 1 chord, this is D minor, it's 1, we can call that an inversion note right there, and this is my 5 chord right here, right, A, C sharp, E, G, and so 4, 3, it's just like the beginning, right, and then it's going to go to a 1 chord right there, okay, but it leaps in and anticipates, right, like this is an anticipation of the chord coming up, and this is definitely like a 5-ish chord right here, right, because you've got your G, sorry, your G and your A and your C sharp and your E and all this kind of stuff right there. So it does go back and forth between, like you could say, well, that's a pseudo 6 and there's my 5 again, and that's a, you know, it's like a G and an E, so what's that, like a 2 chord, right? And then 1. As we crash towards these cadences, our sounds, you know, like contract, but you can hear basically that this is dominant in structure, leading us to a predominant right there, or in this case the 1, and then the 5 of 5, and then our thing right there. And then, like we said, we have a glorious deceptive cadence here, right? And at the end we have another beautiful 1, 6, 4, 5, 1 PAC at the end. And this will be like either an F chord, could be 3, or it could just be an implied 1 chord, you know, like a 1, 6, just like we had before. That's kind of how I hear it. This feels like a 2 chord right there, the G and the D, right? And then if this is my 6 right here, you have to ask yourself, well, what's going to happen right there? A G and a B flat is my 2 chords, G minor, right? 4 chord, sorry. 4 chord, still thinking back in the key of F, and then this right here has the feeling of like, well, I'll play it for you. You can hear this from here. It's like beautiful 6 chord, and then here that feels like a 1, 6, 4, right? 5, and then 1, 6, and then 5, and then finally our, right, 1, 6, 4, 5 cadence. You know, it depends on how fastidious you want to be, but this feels like it's taking me to the 1 chord, and that feels like a 1 chord, that feels like a 5 chord, that feels like a 1 chord, that feels like a 5 chord. Or you could just say it's all just a 4 chord with implied stuff inside of it. It's up to you. All right. Well, that's a lot. In closing, I just want to say sometimes we back away from this kind of analysis because it is difficult to tell when the head motive or the main idea is being used as a restatement of it and when it's being used to generate and build other structures. It's hard to find cadences. And so without those nice boundaries, then it's hard to know what key you're in, and then it's hard to know what the chords are. But if you look at how this is built and the basic chords that are in it, and that helps you decode what's chord and not chord, and then you look for the big cadences, and if you can't find them, you maybe need to listen to it a little more. You can maybe get lost on a cadence, but you will hear when what we call in fugues middle entries, restatements of the themes in different keys, like there, right? And you might go like, oh, is this one right here? But then you'll find that it transitions, and then you finally get this right here. Maybe you want to call it from here. I feel like it really starts here. Big cadence right there, you can hear it, and your cadence drives to right there, right? And then another big cadence or end of a section because we have the restatement right there. Knowing this ahead of time is really useful. And I think the other thing that's intimidating is that, you know, like although all these inventions, for instance, have similarities in their sort of their map, how they go, the actual lengths of each section are not the same. And the stuff after we drive to our, you know, first restatement in the dominant or the relative major, the stuff that happens afterwards can be highly different from each other and not the same length. And Bach doesn't always use the same tricks. Tricks is not the right word, devices in his composition. So So it really, you know, there's a learning curve. You have to get to know these pieces well. And after you've done one, you pick up things on the next one that are similar. And then you add that to your lexicon or tool bag, right? You know, great piece. Maybe we'll do another one in the future. But hopefully that if you went and saw the first one and you're going, but what about the rest? That's there for you now. Okay? All right. Cool.